Hello, and welcome to the Consider Your Mind podcast. I'm your host, Eric King, and along with my co host, Mino Pachan, we're here to talk about all things mental health. Let's get into it.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Consider Your Mind podcast, episode number 24. R.I.P.
24,
Kobe.
man, like Kobe, baby.
Yes, sir.
Rest in peace to Kobe. That was my favorite player, man. So.
Man, yeah. Well, last week we had our episode talking about narcissists. So if you feel like you want to dive in and see what that's all about, go ahead and go give that a listen. This week we have a returning guest, one of our first guests. His name is Mr. Rupert. If you'd like to reintroduce yourself shortly, and also before that, how you been? How's everything going?
Yeah, man. Talk to the people.
Thanks for having me back, guys. Yeah, man. I've been really good. Busy, but busy is good, right? So, well, just to reintroduce myself, my name is Rupert Missick. I'm a strategic hypnotherapist practicing out of Brisbane, Australia. So I deal with a kind of a wide range of topics, everywhere from trauma recovery to depression to anxiety, overcoming addiction, all that good positive stuff to get people up and on with their life.
Nice, man. My man's practicing in the down under, so if his voice sounds a little away from us, man. Hey, man, he's on the whole other side of the world, people. You know what I'm saying?
Literally,
Doing this.
literally.
This is already the next day for him. You know, we trying to catch up to what he doing.
Yeah.
In the future.
Oh, it is the next day over
that's
there, huh?
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh
A
man,
whole different time zone completely.
Rupert, you in the future, man.
Time traveling, that's right.
Wow.
That's deep. Yeah, that's deep, man. Time traveling, but thanks for having coming back and being with us again, man. You were again episode 5. People definitely check that out. He kind of gives his whole background, how he became a therapist, how he went from being in Nassau, Bahamas, a brother from the Nassau, Bahamas, now practicing hypnotherapy in Australia, man. So definitely something to check out, and we're so glad to have you back. And we're gonna cover something, kind of catch up to what you've been on lately. And you mentioned it kind of in your introduction, dealing with trauma recovery. So what we're gonna kind of touch on is kind of like how people can deal with life after trauma. We did an episode on PTSD a couple episodes ago, so I thought this would be a perfect kind of follow up to that. So kind of catch us up on what you've been on lately.
Yeah, I guess, serendipity or circumstance. I've been having quite a few clients that have been coming in needing to deal with their trauma or dealing with traumatic events, dealing with the fear that around that been the product of a traumatic event. So obviously, it's been on my mind for a bit, just trying to help those people out. And with hypnotherapy, it actually has, excuse me, it actually has a fairly rich, a rich background in terms of trauma treatment. One of the, yeah, so one of the biggest, or I guess the first time it entered like widespread um, use was during the First World War. A lot of persons kind of trace it back to that. Obviously, it's older than that, but that was one of the reasons it got into the, I guess, the consciousness of the mental health profession, that this is kind of a respected and proper tool to be used. What
Oh,
happened?
is that it was a shell shock, wasn't it? It used to be called, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it up until that point, it was the on a global sense, it was the biggest and most destructive war that humanity ever engaged in, over a few continents, involved in several countries. And one of the things they were doing was losing people, not only to just on the battlefield, but just to mental break. If you watch any movie or any documentary about the World War one of the things that they'll point out is that they were using old military tactics against new technology. So
Yeah, new. Hmm.
yeah, so like things like machine guns, tanks. So could if you could imagine how unprepared these soldiers were
Yeah,
against these destruct. So they were losing people to death and people that just could not enter the battlefield again because they wouldn't function. And a lot of the trauma, not only, it obviously was mental, but it manifested physically as well too, into shakes, of being unable to walk, random screaming, and traditional therapy wasn't really working for them, and it wasn't working fast enough, I should say, because they wanted these people, for better or for, well, mostly for worse, they wanted these people to
back in
be
the
churned
field.
out.
Yeah, back. Yeah, so they can get. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Kind of like that. The movie that just what didn't just come out, but 1917. It was on the other day, and it's
Mm,
based in World
mm-hmm,
War One. Kind of giving our first insight into that.
mm-hmm,
So.
mm-hmm. That's right. So what they were trying to do, what one of the things they did find out worked fast enough was hypnotherapy. The shakes stopped sooner. The persons that had the funny walk stopped. So that's one of the reasons why it was employed heavily during World War One, some World War Two, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of trauma at the time was seen as sort of a weakness, right?
Hmm.
And when I say trauma, like the reaction to trauma was seen as a
Yeah, like
weakness.
you're
Well,
scared.
it was,
Yeah.
that's right, like almost a moral deficiency, being a coward. So one of the things that did develop out of that, excuse me, sorry, was was more of a more sympathy, more acknowledgement of what these people were going through. And obviously, you don't have to be a soldier to be negatively impacted by a traumatic event. These sort of things they had this. They call it. I'm not going to say it right, but it was something like a railway spine. That's what it was. So they had persons that had similar symptoms after they were involved in a train wreck, right? Back they used to happen more frequent, obviously way more frequently than they did now. But you would have these people that went through a railway accident, and they would come out with the same sort of symptoms, like the staring, the funny walking, that
Being
sort of thing.
scared of trains.
So
Period. Not going to want to be near them. And yeah.
no, exactly, all of that.
Hmm.
So, the our understanding of how we react to trauma has changed over the years. The availability of treatment for it, the availability of understanding of it, it's getting better. You always want things to be perfect, but it is getting better
Hmm.
at this
So I've
point.
come a long way since World War II, 1917. I mean, World War One, 1917.
World War.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
The
Yeah, thankfully we have.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, that's good, man. And I believe one of the
Mm,
stats that I read off on the PTSD episode was that about 70% of people have gone through a traumatic event, whether that manifests in
that's
them
right.
going on to PTSD or not, or being diagnosed.
Hmm.
The fact is, 70%, the vast majority of people have gone through a traumatic event that could warrant, repercussions
Hmm.
going forward.
That's right. But one of the things I find fascinating about that is it kind of leaks into sort of a misconception, just like you pointed out that it does not all trauma leads to PTSD. So you could experience a traumatic event that could allow you, sorry, not allow, but could result in you being diagnosed with PTSD or experiencing the symptoms of PTSD. But that it doesn't have to come with it, if that makes sense. Um, yeah, and you're right. It's the textbook definition of a traumatic event. I think the study was done in the 90s in the U.S. It's like 60% of men, 51% of women have experienced on something that is called it's textbook traumatic. In And I think even in Detroit, um, 90% of the population
Oh, the D.
were exposed. Yeah, were exposed to something that could be like textbook definition of traumatic.
Wow. So, hey,
The,
any Detroit
the,
people out there, please don't be mad at us. Okay, hold on. I gotta verify
the,
those facts. He all the way in Australia. He
yeah,
don't have to deal with these consequences.
yeah, I don't say, yeah, I won't be walking down the streets of Detroit anytime soon. Like, blame me if I'm
All
wrong. That's
right.
what I will tell you. But the most interesting thing that came out, I think about those statistics is the amount of people that actually, for example, so with the national statistic, right? Only 7% of that 50% of women, 60% of men, altogether, only 7% of them actually experience PTSD. And of the people in Detroit, excuse me, I got to clear my throat. In the people in Detroit, only 9% of them experience PTSD, right? So for me, that says something. Not only does the a traumatic event doesn't have to be um, something that ends up being a personally crippling event for somebody. And I'm saying this with a lot of love, a lot of sympathy, and a lot of caring. Obviously, a traumatic event is called a trauma for a reason. And a, when you have a sufferer, that needs to be respected. Their emotions, their feelings about it needs to be acknowledged. And the good thing about one of the things I always say about when people ask me, "Oh, you always have people coming to you complaining or talking about their problems." I don't really see it that way. By the time somebody comes to see me, they're really in a positive space, even if they don't feel positive. They want something to change. So they're coming to see me because they're at a really, and a lot of people
That
don't recognize that when
big
they
point.
first talk to you, that they're in, yeah, that you are actually in a positive space. You want to be different. You want things
Mm-hmm.
to change, and that's positive. So the traumatic event is what it is. It is a trauma. It is something that we need to lovingly acknowledge that your emotions are valid. But by the time you've come to see me, you're in a more positive space. You are actually taking steps away from that trauma and saying,
Mm-hmm.
"All right, I've had enough of
Mm-hmm.
this.
Yep.
How do I get rid of? How
Not
do
to
I
be
fix this?"
confused with the
Right?
GI Joe fallacy, because showing up isn't half the battle. No, no, no.
Yeah.
But it is something though, huh? All
No,
right,
no,
showing
no,
up
that's
is something. Yes.
that is it's the start of something, right? So it's the start of a journey. And like, look, I'm I as the hypnotherapist, I might actually be just one stop on the way to you doing something else, right? So every time you meet a therapist, um, you kind of starting a relationship. It just like any relationship, um, it reaches a point where you can't go any further, right? And that's whether you see any type of mental health care professional, psychiatrist, psychologist, um, that person has a limit. Hypnotherapist, counselor, whoever, that person has a limitation. Um, Basically based on where you are at your point in the journey. So, for example, you might see a person might see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. They might be on medication, and they might at this point decide that, like, look, I'm tired of taking these pills. I feel like I need something different from that. They might have a discussion with them, try to wean themselves off the antidepressant, and go for a more holistic or natural approach to the treatment. At that point, they might say, look, I don't feel like I need to see you every week. I might need to see you every 2 weeks. They might come to the point where, like, I might not need to see you at all every 2 weeks, and maybe once a month, maybe once a quarter, maybe once a year. And it may not even be that same person. It may even be a different type of therapist. I don't need therapy at all. Maybe I need just meditation, all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah, mentorship, counseling, something like that.
right. So the thing is, when you reach that point in your experience, you have to, not you have to, but people should be aware that the negative effects of their trauma isn't a lifetime. Of You don't have to deal with that for a lifetime. It's not.
It's not a lifelong affliction.
It is
You're
not.
saying.
No, no. So what studies have shown is that PTSD declines, generally speaking, with most people after the first 12 months, right? And
Okay.
then it steadily declines over the next 6 years, right? Um, one of the misnomers about trauma is that it lasts forever, that it's something I have to deal with for the rest of my life. And that's a general statement. Some people do for whatever reason. But again, if you're
Mm-hmm.
already in the positive mental state where you're saying, I don't want to deal with this anymore, there's incredible amount of power in that. And it bodes well for any hope you might have in terms of getting better,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Because I think that's good for people to hear. We always want to provide hope. Like, you don't have to, stay there forever.
Mm,
We all get down. We all go through things. Like I said, from trauma, we go through it. Most of us have experienced it. But you don't have
mm,
to relive that or stay in that same space. And one of the
mm,
things, the themes that we've been kind of going on this show is, things that are overused or misused. So we had a show on,
mm.
narcissism, bipolar, PTSD, all this
Oh,
stuff, schizophrenia and psychosis, all these things, calling people schizos, calling people crazy. We just throwing these things out there, calling people bipolar, calling people narcissists just because you don't like them. One of the things I've
yeah.
heard too, really is people saying you're trying to be having a victimhood mentality. Like you're trying to be a
Mm,
victim. They're trying to like victim shaming. I've heard that put out there so much.
mm,
And so where does that come
mm,
in with a world where we do deal with so many people legitimately? Um, but at the same time, again,
mm.
how do they kind of overcome that victimhood? Because like I said, it's
Yeah,
misused. Like blaming the victim, telling people like,
yeah.
hey, accusing somebody of staying in their victimhoodness, whatever. You know?
Victimhood. Yeah.
That's always a good thing too, that you're taking that first step. A lot of times we're scared to take that first step,
Mm,
and you're right. There's a lot of power behind taking that first step, saying, you know what,
mm.
I don't want to deal with this anymore. I need help. You know.
Yeah, that's not
I
a
don't want to
victimhood
do.
mentality. Can't be
Yeah.
because you're trying to get better, right?
Absolutely not. Look, like when somebody walks, like well, I say, walk through the door. A lot of my my sessions are happening online now, but when somebody walks through the door, they feel embarrassed. Sometimes they feel ashamed. They feel weak. But then none of those things. Like at that stage, they're the warrior picking up the spear, the person rescuing the kitten from the burning house. They're a hero at that point because they're deciding, I am acknowledging a state of being that I no longer wish to be a part of my life. And you're right, that's no victim. There's no victim in that type of mindset. But to the point, yeah. In terms of overuse terms, the other thing I'd add
Yeah,
on to
you're
that is
gaslighting me.
gaslighting. That, but that's a whole different thing. Yeah, that's right. But but I think it's important to acknowledge that there's a difference between um, being a victim and having a victim mentality. All right. Um, if something happens to you, you are a victim of whatever it is, whether it's assault, whether it's if you got jumped by three guys in an alley, you definitely were the victim of an assault, right? Now after that, again, like I said, acknowledging whatever emotions you may feel after that. You do not have to be you do not have to develop a victim mentality out of that experience. If you do, again, okay, that's where you are. But the moment you start talking to me, you have decided not to be a victim. Okay, you don't choose your circumstances; you choose your response. Okay, now a victim is a person that has been victimized. A person with a victim mentality basically has about five, well, probably more, but I'll say just in general about like five different characteristics. Right, everything is negative. So that's another one. So say let's use an example of somebody that was unfairly passed over for a job promotion at work, right? For a promotion at the job. So favoritism for whatever reason. They were a victim of nepotism, favoritism, anything unjust, right? Now, after that, they can decide to do a few things. Be like, this is not an institution I want to be a part of, leave. They can go to HR, express a grievance, try to institute institutional change, and off, or none of it. They could just be like, shrug it off and continue on. But there is a choice. There's something they chose. They can choose their response to the unfair circumstance of being looked over. What a person with a victim mentality would do after that is find everything negative. So they stay at the job and then they complain about everything, whether it's positive or negative. They complain about everything. They act and make that's right. Everybody miserable. Um, they overthink things. So after that slight, everything is a conspiracy. What did they mean by that? Oh, they forgot my birthday today, so maybe
Hmm.
that's a part
Yeah,
of
he knows I'm a
why I lost
Gemini,
the
and everybody
job
hates
or didn't get
Geminis. So
that promotion.
I see how you
Like
do me. Them
everything.
Capricorns.
Oh well, that's right. All of that. They ask why a lot. Like, why is this happening to me? Why me? Why am I the only one that doesn't? That sort of thing. Low self-esteem comes out of it as well too. There's uh there's the ability to decide that you're going to leave the circumstance that you're in requires you to understand that you deserve better. Okay, but a low self esteem will keep you in your victimhood because you believe that's just the way it is. That's the way people like me get treated. That's the way people like me get. I'm no good. That's I wish people wouldn't overlook me. That sort of thing. But a person with high self esteem would be like, I don't need this. This job sucks anyway. Let me go find something else.
Yeah, it reminds me of our last episode on narcissism. One of the 4 or 5 narcissists there are. One of them is the covert narcissist, the woe is me. The woe is me narcissist. I'm really great. But keep getting looked
Mm,
over, they're passing up. But they're very
yeah.
selfish. They're very entitled still. They're very, if you try to help them, they'll be ungrateful, and you'll be wondering why. Like,
Yeah.
because that entitlement, that narcissism is still there.
Yes. Let me tell you something. And that's how you know when people are overusing a term when they don't understand the nuance of it. That's very true. Everybody thinks that the narcissist,
Oh,
yeah, let's
whoa.
veer off because
Sorry for that noise right there.
that's right.
Whoa.
What? Oh, you got an airplane?
I think we just launched an airstrike, bro, or something like that. Like I live, like I
You got a
said,
fighter
right by
jet
the
moving in the
airport.
background.
So, whoa, that was a jet fighter, bro.
Yeah. That's all right.
Excuse me, sorry about that. We'll edit this out, man. I said, wait a minute, what is that? My man. All right, what were we talking about?
That's all right.
Yeah, overused terms, narcissist. Yeah.
Oh, we're doing. Yeah, we're doing a segue onto
Oh.
narcissism. So, like, a lot of
Yeah,
people use
and there's like another
narcissism like
one. What is that? Like how?
that's you again.
Yo, is there breaking news for real? Wait a minute, dog. There isn't
What?
like a base near my place.
We got
Yeah,
breaking
just
news.
In
Check
the
your
middle of
phones.
America.
What's going
yeah.
on?
Man, for real,
What is
bro.
it? See what Russia doing now. See or something.
They did ask for another
Did
700
they?
mil, and they said that promise us that you will not use these missiles on
Yeah,
Russia territory.
Bro, I'm dead serious. I was like, yo, that is powerful right there. That is not. That's not going to Chicago. That's just not going. That's not spirit, man. That was not spirit.
that's not
All
Spirit.
right, so
That's not
Absolutely
my
Spirit
not.
apologies. Hey,
Airlines.
man, one day we're gonna get a studio.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
we might keep that even in
Yeah,
there. That's funny. But all right. So again, the
that's okay,
narcissists
man.
aren't what people always think. They think it's all the braggadocious guy. Somebody, it could be
But
something else too.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, they think it looks like Donald Trump, but it also can look like that social justice warrior on your Twitter account that always finds a way to inject themselves into an issue.
Hashtag I'm offended.
I love those.
Oh god.
I love those Twitter ones.
Be like you can, and people who get offended more than the person that the offense is directed to, that's a form of narcissism. For some reason, always trying to like inconveniencing people because your thing is important too, or more important. So yeah, you're right. There's covert narcissism as well too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah, yeah.
that's a segue. And you can have low self esteem and be a narcissist. So that's one of the things you realize. Yeah. Um, the the other thing is jealousy or resenting other people's gains is a part of victim mentality.
Haters. See.
You hate and true look criticism and that's another overused term like haters like constructive criticism is not hating, right? That's not hating. However, like you ever and I find this dealing with pop culture a lot. Do you ever I hope I'm not stepping on toes when I say this, right? But you ever met a person that tried to become a rapper, didn't really make it, right?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Um,
We all know, man. Hey,
you
oh
know,
wow, come on,
I
Vito.
am one.
you know what? Right.
MC such and such.
That's all right. But they they kind of shrug it. The people who shrug it off and be like, yeah, yeah, didn't make it. Look, I'm still good, but whatever. But then there's some people that'll go and crusade the fact that they didn't make it. Like y'all ain't gonna listen to this because I'm not
Yeah,
mainstream,
this
or
is
like, and
real
they
hip
try to
hop.
guilt you.
This is real hip.
Yeah,
Oh my
this
goodness, famous words, bro. There's so many
Oh no.
people.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah. We've seen those people.
yeah, and then or the only reason Jay Z is famous because he's part of the Illuminati
The
and
conspiracy theorists.
all,
See, I didn't sell my
all
soul. I kept my integrity,
yeah. I kept
brother.
my yeah, that's right.
Has nothing to do with
Yeah,
his skill. Has nothing to do with his
yeah,
talent.
yeah, yeah. But that is a part of a victim mentality. It's being unable to find success where you are as well. So but that's not the same thing as being a victim. I'm a victim of unfair practices at my work. Didn't get the promotion. I'm a little shaken by it. I'm a little traumatized by it. It assaulted my what you call it, my self esteem. I'm a little hurt. However, however, I don't have to feel like this forever. I have talent. I have connections. I have the ability to move on from this. And I'm using that as a light example, obviously, right? But that's the difference between a victim and a person with a victim mentality. And I find that a lot with people who deal with things like bullying or again like things like being looked over at work. One of the things that they don't seem to do very well is understand that their job is not their family, in the sense that like you can't abandon your family, you can't get frustrated at your kids and just walk out the door, lock it, and be like, that's it, I'm done. You, you could definitely do that with your job, though. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, a little
You can
easier. It's
definitely,
easier to quit your job than your family.
yeah, that's correct. So it's like, and you never directly say, you keep coming to me with the same issue about this job. you will never change this institution. You're only an entry level clerk at this business. Um, your voice should matter. It doesn't. That's something that's it's
Yeah, the
ingrained
tail
in
is
that
not gonna
company.
wag the dog.
Leave. The, yeah. So leave. Right. But there's a reason. And this is the insidious thing about it. There's a reason that they stay continuously being traumatized by this environment. On some level, they they don't enjoy it, but they like it
I've heard it put like this:
because it's comfortable.
the devil you know. It's the devil you know.
It's the devil you know, sort of thing. Yeah, so it's comfortable, right? It's familiar. Getting a new job is scary, right? Deciding that you're going to strike it on your own is scary. I'm being fed, I'm being taken care of by this current environment. I don't want to leave, but I'm also being hurt by it. So, so that's all. And you can apply that across the board to relationships. You know, that some people in abusive relationships confuse comfort and familiarity with love. Um, even on material security, all of that. So they continue, they get re-traumatized over and over again because they don't leave the circumstance that they're in. That in and of itself may not be a victim mentality, but the excuses they use to remain in it is a part of being having a victim mentality.
Got you. So the excuses themselves, that's contributing to it. One thing I did, it's interesting you say about the
That's right.
workplace too, because in studying something else, I think I heard it was like workplace stress is the type of stress that's most associated with physical illness. Physical illness
Mm-hmm.
manifesting from stress. Workplace stress in particular, does that in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
ulcers and people again working themselves to death. It like causes bodily harm more than other types of stress, man, which I think is that's really
Mm-hmm.
interesting. It explains a lot though. People dying on the job, like
Yeah.
quite
You
literally.
work yourself to death too much.
No, that's right, The thing about it is too is one of the reasons why my in my practice I do a holistic counseling. I'm not an expert in everything, but what I do is obviously keep a mind open to the levels that a client can be helped out of a situation. So we take care.
You try to keep a broad bag, as they
That,
say. Keep your bag.
that's correct, right? So, for example, a person that is on a job that they can't leave in quotations, but it's killing them, and that can be quite literal, like things like high blood pressure. That that can be high blood pressure can be environmental as well. So it could literally be killing them. I can't leave my job in quotations. I cannot leave my job because I got a mortgage. I got $20,000 of credit card debt. I need this job, right?
Insurance, all of that, my kid, all of this.
All that sort of stuff. So in a holistic approach, right? So we're dealing with the stress on one hand, but there's so we're going through the hypnotherapy. We're going through a few strategies you can use to handle the stress, but the other thing we need to do is get you out of this environment. So, what do we need to do? What is going to give you the freedom to leave? I need to get rid of this debt. All right, fine. So, what I would say is that okay, let's see if you could have a chat with a financial planner to see if you can get this debt down. We could have a chat about who you need to talk to handle this debt, so that you get your living expenses to a point where you could give the proverbial or literal. I don't recommend the literal, but the
Yeah.
proverbial finger to this job and just and find something more
Hmm.
suited to your mental health, right? So in terms of holistic counseling, that's a part of it. And a lot of people can't. I remember this is years and years ago. I worked with this guy and it was I could tell you like hey,
But it's up there.
this wasn't the most toxic
There you
workplace that
go.
I was a part of, but it's up there, it's number two, not number three. But and this gentleman, he was older, like maybe let's say 10, 8 years away from retirement, and And man, he would have the equivalent of like once every other week he would have sort of a mental breakdown because of the way the boss ran things, or just how he treated people. And he could not leave. In his mind, he could not leave because he had so much debt. Uh, yeah, he had so much debt. The solution to that is, from a holistic point of view, is to obviously have strategies in place to deal with that sort of negative environment or negative people, because you don't know, wherever you might end up after that, you might meet the same person. All right. Yeah, I think the
That's true. You can be going from the fire, or what they call it, from the frying pan
fire
straight into
to
the fire.
right. So like that, like Karen, right? So you have got Karen on your job. There are Karens all over the world. So what
Right in HR. Yep, right in HR.
so what happens when you meet the next Karen? All right. So that's one thing. That's what I can help you with. I can't help you with your debt. So that's another thing you need to fix. Get debt free so that you can be free to get maybe work part time in a McDonald's if that suits your life better. You know what I'm trying to say? Where you don't have to be a slave to a negative environment. So a part of being in a traumatic situation or a traumatic environment is finding a way out of that circumstance and finding a way not to repeat that. All right, it's nobody has a right to treat anybody poorly, but
Hmm.
people will
And
try
some people
to do
can,
it.
when you have that mentality, you think you deserve
People
to be
will do
treated
it.
that way.
All right, so you can that's right. So choose your response when you meet that type of person, and again in life. So you have your strategy to deal when you have that type of person in front of you, and what happens later on if down the line you meet that same type of.
Because you will. You're gonna encounter these things. What's wild is when I was doing the narcissism thing to figure out, okay, the diagnosis is 1%, but that's just to get diagnosed. Somebody has to recognize, like you say, be on the road to wanting to come into therapy and already, and if you're a true narcissist, then you're gonna think you know it already. Is gonna prevent you from being. So in reality, how many people are walking around, with trauma, traumatic stress disorders, narcissism, all this stuff? It's more like probably 10 to 15% of people. That's 1 in 10. That's people, multiple people you're going to encounter, in workplaces and your family, in your own family too. That's the other part of it. These people being your family, and how to deal with that stuff. You know, you all could be very sweet people, but then your sister marries somebody, or your brother marries somebody, brings them into the family, and can change the whole dynamic.
There's even something more insidious where the effects of trauma are normalized to the point where they seem as normal behavior, right? So I'll give you an example. So if you've been traumatized, you can develop PTSD. The other thing is trauma can express itself in like being hypersexualized, being emotional, being violent, ready to throw down at the least provocation, all of that. That though is also, unfortunately, something that is socially acceptable as typical male behavior. So you got a lot of traumatized guys walking around thinking that they're just being men. You know what I'm saying? But they're out there getting running through women. They're out there getting arrested every weekend because they got in a fight, and they think they're just being dudes, but they're actually walking around with some unaddressed trauma, and that's when it becomes really, really, really painful to see, where that you're not living a fulfilled life in your purpose at this point, because you got all of these things holding you back, and you got all of these things holding you back because you're dealing with unaddressed trauma, and you're dealing with unaddressed trauma because you don't even know that it needs to be addressed, because society is rewarding you with, yeah, well, that's how you're a guy, that's how you're supposed to act, that's what dudes do. even
Boys will be boys. Yeah.
boys will be boys. Even this again, I don't mean to be controversial. Like even the kind of thought culture or thought culture, like we
Yeah.
see
THOT. Yeah, I know.
THOT, yeah, that that it doesn't have to be, but there's a good chance that a lot of there's a lot of traumatized women on Instagram thinking they're just being
This is normal now.
desire.
Yep.
This is the desire. That's right, because it's normal. That's a subgenre of social media now, and they're just being women. That, but they're not again living into their full purpose because their display is actually an outcropping of some unaddressed trauma. So
Gotcha. It can be a cry for help more than anything, but it's being rewarded as, the thing to do. So we start to
that's right.
confuse the two, man, because a like is a like, people. A like is a like, comment's a comment, heart's a heart. You can't really tell the difference, man. So thanks, man. That was a lot of great information, especially on trauma. We really do appreciate it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a topic that, again, this is, just probably maybe a part two of a part three or something like that. We need there's so much more to talk about on this subject. So, thanks so much for that. And I guess if there's one last question to kind of, before we wrap up the show, what am I not asking about victimhood that I need to be as a therapist person? So that word again, victimhood, what am I not asking you, you know, that I
What
probably
are you
should be?
not asking
Yeah,
me?
what am I not asking you? Because again, I'm not a clinical therapist.
Oof.
When I hear victimhood, I'm just like, okay, you're a victim. I was like, what's some?
Oh man, that's a deep question because you also rely on the fact that I don't know what I don't know. I don't know
That's a good one. All right, see,
but
there you go. We might put that in the. There you go. Like I said, this might be part two, part three. You know what I'm saying? Hey,
yeah,
we gotta keep it
I
teased.
think one of the things is that one of the fascinating things about trauma is that it doesn't have to be negative. And I say so that's one of the things that I guess you didn't ask me whether it's always negative. And I'm saying this very, very, very gently because, again, the word trauma means something. However, they've there's been research that says that sometimes people even thrive after a trauma. It's actually a term called post-traumatic growth, right? Um, so um, and I'm saying this meaning that please avoid anything that causes trauma. Don't look for it. But some people who have experienced it actually have thrived after it. I'll give you a good example. One of my favorite historical figures in all the world is Frederick Douglass, right? So he was a slave. He was sold all. You can imagine. You could imagine what kind of trauma you're dealing with as a former slave, right? Um, he parlayed that trauma into something a legacy that will last hundreds and hundreds of years, even after his death. Um, Obviously, nobody wants to be a slave. Nobody should want to be a slave. Nobody should look for it. But that's a person who thrived after his trauma. Could pick Nelson Mandela, for example. What makes one person fold and another person bloom? The answer to that is resilience. Um, because we're wrapping up, and again, that could be another
Yeah, yeah.
topic
Hey,
for another
man, you
day.
gave me great ideas.
Yeah,
already got the name for the next episode. See?
but yeah, resilience. And the good thing about resilience is a lot of people think you need to be born with it. You don't have to be. It definitely can be.
Okay, you can develop
So
resilience. Yeah.
you could definitely can. So that's one of the things I think most people don't acknowledge about trauma as well.
Gotcha.
So,
You can develop resilience and you can grow from it. So, like I said, next episode,
mm.
you already gave me the name, bro. It's going to be called Post Traumatic Growth. Next time we have you on, we're going to talk about post traumatic growth, man. So, again, thanks
No
so much
worries,
for
no
all that.
worries.
That was awesome, man. And so, yeah, man, what you got for us, man, as we wrap this thing on up?
I just want to say that was very informative. So, sorry, informative. So, thank you for that, Rupert. It was a good insight into looking at what's really what it is, and it's crazy what people go through, and it could take a small incident that could really change how you live your life, and post traumatic is nothing to It's nothing to tread lightly around. People really go through it. So thank you for your time today and explaining that to us. As we wrap up the show, I guess just reach us to the part where we do our little mental break, little fun question, and the show on a lighter note. For you, Mr. Rupert, it's going to be very simple. As a
Yeah.
child, or even maybe now, when you're hungry, what is your go-to
Sandwich.
sandwich? Your
Man,
go-to food?
my go-to sandwich, a hot dog. Is a hot
Okay.
dog a sandwich? Yeah,
You know what?
yeah,
Today it is.
definitely.
Yes. On consider your mind. On consider your mind. It's
Is is there a story behind that? Why a
Man,
hot dog, and how
is
do
there a
you make
story?
it?
I can't even say that. Like for me, it's just perfect. Like the like I'm a big meat guy. I don't. I probably shouldn't be, but I am definitely. And I'm a
hey
big
man.
Yes.
Yeah, you living.
big bread guy as well too. And I think a hot dog just cuts all the noise out. I don't need all that solid.
It is very
Just
holdable
meat.
too.
Yeah, very transportable. Yeah, that's right.
True.
So
True.
so yeah, so that's definitely my go-to sandwich, my comfort food. Yeah.
Very
My
nice. Very
go-to
nice.
sandwich,
What about you, Eric?
probably, just the turkey provolone. I was actually just at Jimmy John's yesterday, but they didn't make it that good. I can't front. Not all
Ooh.
Jimmy John's are correct, rate the same. But like the turkey tom type of thing, yeah, the turkey tom, bro. That's like,
Agreed.
if I got a sandwich, it's definitely that.
Oh,
Turkey
man.
sandwich with the just mayonnaise, provolone cheese, the lettuce, the it's real basic. That's the go-to.
The basics.
Fancier stuff. Now I go over to Jersey Mike's with the roast beefs and the Philly cheese steaks and all of that other stuff. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That stuff I
Oh.
can't actually even
With a
make
little bit of
myself. I ain't
olive
got all of
oil,
that stuff.
too?
So turkey sandwich it really is. That's 9 times out of 10. That's what
Right?
it's gonna
A
be.
little salt and pepper. Man, for me, I keep it simple, but it all comes down to that bread. I like the
Oh,
little
it gotta be
crunch on
toasted.
the
Yeah.
outside of a bread when it's toasted, right?
Okay.
And then you got to have turkey, ham, and bacon with some lettuce. I'm not a tomato guy. I'll do some onions and pickles every now and then when I want to get fancy. But other than that,
There you go.
that's it, man. Turkey, ham, bacon,
3 meated. Okay.
and a toasted
That's
bun
what's up,
or
man.
bread.
And on that note, yeah.
Yes, sir. Now I'm hungry, and I'm going to get me one of them sandwiches.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much, Rupert, for coming through, man. We really do appreciate it. Can't wait to have you back again. Like I already said, I got the name for the next episode, man. So now you got to come through. For sure. And everybody out there listening, we do really appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with us for another episode. And we will see you again next week. Peace.